Thank you for being with us tonight. We're going to do something we've never done before. We've got an individual that has been in my life and in my family's life for decades that happens to be very well placed in the government. And he's one of the people that I tell you that call me periodically with information to share on the broadcast. He's agreed tonight to go online with us and answer some questions that might help you understand where we as America and as the Christian church is today. I realize that many of you are confused. Many of you are hearing different stories from different media sources. Social media has been all over the map with some of this stuff. But we're going to go straight to a source that's going to give you nothing but information. Now, I must warn you, some of the information that we're going to hear, some of the questions we're going to ask, he might answer, I can neither confirm nor deny. And I will not push him on that because he has his reputation, his job, and his family to think of. The questions I'm going to ask him are those that have been circulating through your family, your job, the people you live with, the people you communicate with, and hopefully we will get you an answer tonight. Now, this gentleman has been in the government for decades. He served in the military. He served in civil service jobs, and now he's in one of the very high positions, very esteemed positions in the government. He works with the alphabet agency. He is a liaison to senators, and he has sources that we could never touch. I asked him as an American to come on tonight and share information because there's confusion, there's fear, and there's turmoil throughout our nations. The Congress is at odds. The public doesn't know what to do. Our nation is divided. And not only are we divided, we are endangered right now. So sit back, buckle up, and get ready for a broadcast like you've never seen on the HIM channel before. Thank you very much. And now we go to our source. Our first question tonight is the border crisis, the greatest threat to our generation since the Cold War? And what about child trafficking and illegal drugs? To our friend.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you to Paul. Thank you to your broadcast for everything you do for not only the kingdom of God, but for the United States of America and all the free Western nations. I do understand it's not easy trying to color within the lines when putting on a broadcast like this. And I do appreciate your staying on the air, so to speak, and making sure that your content is vetted and is reliable. To answer your question, I would say the border crisis that we are experiencing today is no doubt right on the level of 9/11 and on the level of the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's going to bring in two different generations so they will understand what I'm about to say. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, of course, I wasn't even born yet, but I did have to study the Cuban Missile Crisis in my war college days, and so I have a pretty good handle on it. And then during the Cold War, back when I began my government career, I was a psychological unit analyst specialist for the military. And part of my specialty was psychological operations and communications, which included defeating the Soviet Union and the Soviet blocked countries. And it wasn't a small task, but I can tell you the task at our border today is a greater task than that. And and what I mean by that is, for the most part, as a young man in the military, we were deployed forward into foreign countries, and we were operating on foreign soil, and we were conducting our operations on their territory. Well, I will tell you today, we are now in a defensive posture on our own border, in our own country, having to keep track of certain individuals that we know have crossed the country. In the past 24 months, we have approximately 174 persons of interest on the terrorist watch list that we know of. Now, everything I'm going to tell you tonight is open source information. So I'm not going to get you in trouble. You don't have to worry about that. Anybody can, Google it or just do a deep dive research, and you can find out what I'm talking about. And that's kind of the way I operate these days. That's the best way to operate. But getting the information out is the key. So, approximately 174 known terrorists have crossed in the last 24 months. Now, those are the ones we know about. Now, it's not that we stopped all that 174. It's that after they crossed and after their information was ran, some of them were noted to be on the terrorist watch list. With the current administration's policies, a lot of times there's just a small amount of time for our brothers and sisters in the CBP, and it is CBP. It's not ICE. Real quick, I'm going to give some people some education here. CBP operates within the 200 miles of the border. Everything within the border of 200 miles is ICE. So, it's not now. Can ICE be down on the border? Yes, ICE can be detailed down on the border to assist with CBP duties, and they are a charging agent, a charging agency, which means they can arrest, but they have to be under the auspice of CBP or the protection of CBP in their moniker to be able to effectively arrest someone within 200 miles of the border. So, that being said, when CBP, which is a federal agency, when it apprehends, basically we've turned the CBP agents into processing agents. And what I mean by that is they're overwhelmed with people. The cartels are very smart. The cartels will send groups of 1,000 into an area to flood the area so that you have to call all of the available officers to help process these persons. And then what's happening is up and downstream from that location is where your drugs are being brought in, where those that are being trafficked, maybe individuals that are going to be used in certain areas of crime. I'll just put it in a nice way like that. Within the United States, they're being trafficked in. And also those that have arrest warrants and things like that, they're the ones that are called the gotaways. And you're looking at at least 10 to 12% gotaways to every apprehension or every person that we actually encounter. We call them encounters. Yeah, we call them encounters.
Let me
Yeah.
insert a question here real quick. Why are we not deporting the ones the 174 that are caught? Why are we allowing the infiltration into our country?
Well, I will say probably of that 174, 90 of them were apprehended and have since then have been deported or are in holding cells right now. So that's the good thing. But then again, you put 10 snakes in a bucket, 9 of them are non-venomous and one of them's venomous. Do you want to reach in that bucket? Yeah.
What do you think the economic impact to our system and health system and our educational system is going to be with the 10 million people that have crossed in the last 3 years?
Well, the official number is 11.2 million. The unofficial number is upwards of somewhere between 18 and 20. And I'll just let that sit there and you can think about that for a minute. Now the impact of this on our economic system is basically you're bringing these individuals in. The government per se is not, a lot of people say the government's giving them money and housing, et cetera, et cetera. It's not the government that's giving them money and housing, it's the taxpayer. And the other thing is the government is allowing agencies, they call them NGOs.
Non-government agencies.
Non-government agencies. They are given millions of dollars. I'm going to call one out here, Catholic Charities. So look at Catholic Charities right now. Catholic Charities is in trouble because they're tied up with the Hamas issue. And I'll just let your folks figure that one out, and they can look at it and figure it out for themselves.
Let me ask you a question real quick. I'm finding the Red Cross at the top of the list of enablers in bringing people across the border. Is that true?
Well, the Red Cross is there to assist. Remember, the Red Cross is made up mostly of volunteers. So, when the Red Cross intervenes when people are coming across the border, they're literally, helping people that are in need. Now, the Red Cross has, always helped in battle zones. It didn't matter, what side of the battle you were on. They assisted someone who needed help. So I can't really say they're not, they're the bad guys, but they are there to help, but they shouldn't have to be there to help. That's the problem.
Well, let me move on just a minute because we've only got 40 minutes here. The next question I'd like to ask you is how many of these illegal immigrants, and I'm saying illegal, not immigration, but illegal immigrants, are gang related, Chinese, Middle Eastern, Russian?
Well, you've got 160 different nations that have crossed the border. So most, I would say probably 40%, between probably 40 and 50% are from Latin America.
Yeah.
The rest of them are from all over the world. And so, it's not that hard to get a flight from China to Ecuador or someplace like that.
Let me throw
and
this
then
in real quick. Ecuador is one of the countries in South America that requires no visa. So
you are correct.
You can fly from anywhere in the world into Ecuador. And this
you are correct.
This is one of the ports that's receiving a lot of these illegal immigrants and then ushering them up. Let me throw this at you to save time. In order to get through the European barriers and get to South America is not a problem. They can come from the Middle East. They can come from any country. They can catch a flight into Ecuador. If they're going by caravan, they must come through the Darien Gap, which is the 60 miles between Panama and Colombia. My sources are telling me that there are 2, maybe 3 major Chinese camps that are taking these military-age men and training them, heightening their training, even with armament, and then sending them north through Mexico, where they're met by another group at a training camp. And then they're ushered across the border to a 200,000-acre ranch that the Chinese government bought through proxy before all of this started. Is that true?
It's got truth to it. I can say that there have been people of credibility that have spotted military age persons of Asian descent in some type of training events in the United States, not far from the border, and also in Mexico, not far from the border. So I can't speak to the validity of the armaments. I can't speak to, the exact points, but I can say that we do have credible intelligence. Now, most of our intelligence, there's different ways to come across intelligence. And so most of the intelligence we're coming across by that is called human intelligence. And so when I find someone or we find someone we can debrief in a national security aspect, you'd be amazed at, you give someone a candy bar, what they'll tell you.
Well, I used to raise cutting horses, and I've got a lot of friends on the border, especially from the King's Ranch west, and they're telling me they are seeing more Chinese military-age males without families, without wives, without children, streaming into our country. Is the government making any statement on this or any preparation to stop it?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. I will tell you that approximately 40% of the individuals crossing the border are single military-aged males from all nations, from all kind of nations, not just, from everywhere. And no, it's a concern, and it actually has been brought up to Congress by the intelligence apparatus, and the Congress was actually issued a letter not too long ago on this very subject. And I would just recommend that people go and you can read that letter. It's an open letter to Congress by past directors of the FBI and CIA and the intelligence apparatus that explain the danger of these military age males crossing the border. I want to insert something here really quick, and I know we're short on time, and I'm sorry. As of yesterday, there are 53 counties in Texas, 53 counties that have officially declared an invasion on the state of Texas. Now, there are 60 counties in Texas that have declared a state of emergency since 2022. I believe it's December 2022. But, this 53 counties, people are starting to take notice. And when I say people, I mean, Democrats, Republicans, independents. There comes a point in time where, when I live in a very secluded, prestigious residence. And and I live in a gated community. And not too long ago, there was a car chase that came through my community of illegals that were running from the police. And I mean, that's never happened here.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm hearing that the UN is sending supervisors and observers to the U.S. to see if there would be troops needed in case of civil disorder because of all the illegal immigrants, because of the civil unrest we have, and maybe moving into November. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, once again, there's a little bit of truth behind it, and then there's also some other things with it. The United Nations always deals with, just like when I've been at the refugee camps in Jordan, and I've been at the refugee camps in Syria, there is a contingent of United Nations troops. Okay, so uh, there are communities here in Texas and in Arizona and in New Mexico that are stand-up communities, we'll call them, kind of like a tent city, and they are totally immigrants, persons claiming asylum. Now, I mean, you and I can have a whole nother show about asylum and what asylum is, but the rules that govern asylum are, the national rules are, you get to the very first country from your country that accepts asylees, and then you claim your asylum, whether it be political or whatever. You if there is economic asylum. It's kind of a new phrase. It's not really recognized in the law. So, the news likes to talk about it, but it's not going to hold water in a court of law when the time comes.
When we
Now,
have illegal immigrants telling the Border Patrol and ICE that they're here because of economic, they're here for the money, shouldn't they be immediately deported at that point?
Well, they should be. they should be sent back to the first country
they entered into.
That they entered into to be processed. Which that's kind of what Title 42 did. You guys remember the Title 42 under President Trump? It allowed the processing to happen there in Mexico where it should have happened. And understand this, 90%, actually it's probably 96% of all asylee claims are denied.
But then why are they releasing them and bringing them back for a court date 3 years down the road?
9 years down the road now, sir.
Oh, 9 years. The queue's
9 years.
Longer, yeah.
Yes. So we're kicking the can down. We don't have enough immigration judges to process 10,000 people a day through just Texas. Now that's just Texas.
I know.
Mexico, right? Yeah, you've got 4 other border states you need to worry about. But so if you sit in an 8-hour day and you spend 20 minutes with each case, it's going to take you 10 years, there's not enough judges. There's not enough bandwidth, to even do them by video.
Well, let me quote a famous spokesperson for the White House. Let's circle back for a moment. Tell me more about this 200,000 Chinese CCP ranch on the border of Texas and New Mexico.
Okay, so 200,000 acres was purchased through a proxy broker. It's actually right next to a military base.
Right. That's what I
which
wanted
is
to bring out.
which is bad. They are looking at reclaiming that land now. The state of Texas is, but it is believed it was bought through a Chinese proxy, you know, company. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret about Texas. Okay, I love Texas. I love the road and the infrastructure in Texas. You got these wonderful, beautiful highways that you can speed up and down, and you just pay a toll. Well, Texas doesn't own those. They're all owned by foreign nations.
Most of them by Saudi Arabia, right?
Yes, you are correct. So it's nice to have a road without potholes, but then when you start realizing where your money goes, it don't really stay here in Texas.
Not to go down a rabbit hole, but when King Fahd was trying to buy the right-of-way with Ross Perot, I was actually in one of the meetings where they were talking about buying all the houses and land on that right-of-way decades before they ever put the loop around Dallas. And they allowed the people to live in the houses. All they had to do was pay the insurance to keep the grass cut for a decade or more while they were planning to build the loop around Dallas or the tollways around Dallas. So, yeah, Saudi Arabia definitely invested there. Do you think that there's any possibility, if we had civil unrest in America, that the UN would send in peacekeeping troops?
We all know what the charter is. The charter says, if you touch one, you touch all. That's the UN, the charter. But I think that, to be honest with you, it wouldn't fly here in the U.S. Now, we train NATO and UN forces all the time here on American soil. One of the things, a lot of people, you'll see it about once a year. Someone will show a picture of a train with a whole bunch of UN vehicles,
correct,
on them. Well, that's where those, they're called MIRAP vehicles. They're the new military vehicle that's replacing like the Humvee
or the Brad,
and or the Bradley, and they cost about $1 million a piece, just so you know. And that they are part of the United States's packet to the UN. so yeah, that's that. That we purchase those and paint them white and send them off to who knows where they end up in 5 years. But anyway, so that's what people see.
Yeah. Some of the generals are going on some of the talk shows, retired generals, and they're saying that at any given time they could have a 200,000 man armed army of Chinese descent in America with all of the illegal immigration we've had. Is that number correct?
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be Chinese. I think it would be foreign national. I can't say 100% that it would be all Chinese. I know that General McInerney says that a lot, and I actually know General McInerney. But there are definitely enough military age males if there is some type of hierarchy and some type of leadership. It wouldn't be very hard to put together some type of insider attack here in the United States. Now, I'm gonna put a pin on something and talk to you real quick about something. I know we're short on time.
Go ahead.
We are closer now to an event in the United States like what happened last November in Israel than people really know.
You're talking about October the 7th?
Yeah, exactly. we are so close to one of those type of events. And remember, 9/11 was what, 12 guys or 11 guys or 9 guys or something like that,
I think it was 18
Yeah.
all total, all the ones they
Yeah.
named in it.
Yeah. So it wasn't very many people. And it was put together and, and it happened. And then you see the way that, this attack in Israel happened. It's not very hard to think about this happening in the United States. And especially in a larger city where they don't allow gun control. I'm going to talk, or they don't allow guns to be
Concealed
carried.
carry or
Yeah, concealed carry. So the good guys don't have the guns. Let's just put it that way. So you're looking at a Chicago, you're looking at any city in California, you're looking at New York City, you're looking at Boston, you're St. Louis, these type of cities that have been ran in the ground by Democrat leadership, and they are just ripe for the picking. Remember, it was these cities that were subject to a lot of the unrest from the George Floyd fallout.
All right, let's throw in Portland and Minneapolis and Seattle.
Right. Yeah, those cities. And so if you don't think, it's just like, as a prior intelligence analyst, um, I keep track of those things here in the United States, but I also keep track of those things in other countries. And so,
prototypes.
You can see what's happening in other countries, and you can know, where the soft and the hard targets are. I don't know if you've ever. I think you've been to Israel. I don't know if you've ever been up to the, those border cities or those border villas or towns.
I've been all the way to Lebanon, all the way up through Transjordan, which is the West Bank, Syria, Egypt.
Right.
I've been to all of those countries.
Well, a lot of those towns on the border there, they are more of the easygoing Israelis.
Right.
Yeah, the kibbutz. Yeah, they're more of the easygoing Israeli people. They they kind of they're just not as maybe up to par, so to speak. So that's why they attack those cities like that. One, they're right on the border. Two, they're not, or they wasn't at the time, ready for what really happened, because they relied on the IDF to protect them.
Well, I was in Israel whenever every 18-year-old up teenager or young person was carrying an AK-47 or an M16 slung over their shoulder. And, we saw a lot of things in preparation, but then I understand that the same thing that happened to us is happening in Israel, where some of the gun laws were changed. You had to be military trained to even have a weapon. Let me ask you this, and I don't want to jump ahead. Do you think right now that with the problem in Europe, Taiwan, Ukraine, North Korea, that America's ready to defend its state of the Union or its stance in these countries? If we went to war,
That's a look.
Can we fight
Yeah.
in Europe and Taiwan and North Korea and in our own homeland simultaneously?
Well, I'll start off by saying this: our Navy is at the lowest amount of ships, I think, since 1930s, I believe. So just kind of think about that for a minute. Yes, people say, well, we have technology. And we do have technology. We have it takes less people to run a frigate than it did in 1950 than it does today. I think, a third of the personnel to run a Navy frigate.
But three times
But,
the education that required.
well, yeah, that's the other part of it. And uh, will we? I think we could stand up a three-man or a three-war front, as long as two of them were, uh, uh, let's say, air and sea. But if we had to stand a air, land, sea battle on more than 3 points, and now when I say air, land, sea, that means putting boots on the ground, having ships in the sea, and planes in the air. We can't support it. Here's what I'm getting ready to tell you a secret. It's not really a secret because it's out. We don't have the ammo right now to support anything over probably a 20-day offensive.
Exactly. And Lake City can't produce it fast enough to meet the surplus that we need, or the slack that we have that we sent to Ukraine.
Right. Yeah. We uh that you just brought up another point. There was a reason that Hamas knew when to strike Israel.
Right.
And that reason is we had just given a whole bunch of ammunition and a whole bunch of our war machine apparatus. We had moved it from Israel to Ukraine. And now, they're rushing. We just ramped up. We was at 7,155 shells per month being made. We just went back up to 30,000. So we're making, we got 30,000 now. A 155 round. It's not the heaviest round, but it's the most common round used around the world, and it's got a killing radius. If you got an HE round, which is a high explosive HE round, a killing radius of approximately 50 by 50. So if it hits, that's a killing radius. Now it's got a devastation radius of up to 100. 100 by 100. So it's a pretty powerful round. Now, the average HE round, now we're just talking HE, is going to cost between $600 and $800
per round.
And per round, and that does not include the powder, the bags, because it's a non-powder filled round. It's got to have a projectile load behind it. So it's got to have, either 8 bags, 4 bags, 3 bags.
Like the old howitzers of battleships in World War II.
Exactly. So it's got to have bags behind it. Now, there are some smart rounds of 155 that can cost up to $1.2 million. So, you can figure that out. Those are expensive. And then you've got smoke rounds. I believe a smoke round's gonna run you probably $300. And then you've got white phosphorus rounds, which theoretically there's only certain ways you can use them according to the Geneva Convention. We'll just leave it there like that. And and things like so it's not if someone was to order let's say $600 million worth of artillery shells, that would probably be, remember, 600 million, that would be about a 20-day supply for an active on the ground offensive.
Well, there you have it. From inside the Beltway. Information that I hope will help you. Now, we're going to be doing another broadcast. We're going to be bringing it back on, maybe some more questions, probably for next week. Right now, I'm asking you to pray for us and pray for him. He's in a very delicate spot. The agency he's working with has all the answers. he shared just a few with us tonight. Now, those of you that are supporting our channel, if you'll look at our QR code, if you'll click on that, it will take you to our website. On the website, you'll find information. You'll find material that we have for sale, some of Sharon's CDs, a book I wrote, and a place to donate. We want to keep bringing information to you and inside information you won't find anywhere else, but we're going to need some help financially. If you'll go to the donate button and click on that, we're not asking you to give a lot of money, but if you would give a consistent offering, $25, $30 a month, $1 a day, it would help. We're going to do our best to bring to you the Word of God and the news and show you how prophecy and current events are intertwined. May the Lord bless you and your family, and may God bless America. And I pray that you have a church home where you're being fed regularly. But be with us. HIM channel will bring you nothing but truth. God bless you.